In the year 1162, near the serene lake Baikal in Mongolia, a child was born. His name was Temujin, but the world would come to know him as Genghis Khan. His birth was marked by an auspicious sign, a clot of blood clutched in his tiny hand. Legend whispered that his lineage traced back to a divine gray wolf, a destiny from heaven on high. Temujin's childhood wasn't easy. At the age of 9, his father Yesuge, a member of the royal Borjigin clan, was poisoned by the Tatars, igniting an old feud. His father's death left the family homeless. The rival Taichut family usurped their clan's power. The young boy, his mother, and his siblings were left to survive on their own, subsisting on roots and fish instead of the usual nomad diet of lamb and mare's milk. But even in these circumstances, Temujin's spirit shone through, and things started to get even worse. Once he was captured by the Taichut, who rather than killing him, kept him around their camps, wearing a wooden collar. One night, seizing an opportunity, he knocked down the inept guard and fled into the darkness. A Taichut member, struck by the fire in Temujin's eyes, helped him escape, risking his own life. Another time, thieves stole 8 of the family's 9 horses. Temujin pursued them, and along the way, he met a young stranger named Boorchu. Impressed by Temujin's authority, Boorchu immediately left the milking he was engaged in, gave Temujin a fresh horse, and set out with him. Boorchu helped him recover the horses and pledged his loyalty, becoming a lifelong companion and a friend. Years passed, and despite their hardships, Temujin's family held on to their prestige as members of the royal Borjigin clan. This allowed Temujin to claim the wife his father had betrothed to him before his death. However, tragedy struck again when the Merkit tribe, seeking revenge for a past wrong, kidnapped his wife Borte. In the darkest hour, Temujin turned to Togrul, the Khan of the Kharat tribe and his father's sworn brother. Temujin wisely supported this alliance, and in return, Togrul promised to help to bring back Borta and reunite the scattered people of Temujin's tribe. For this, an army of 20,000 people was allocated. This was the turning point in his life. Temujin found himself at the head of a formidable force. The young man who had once worn a wooden collar and left to survive without shelter was now a leader of an army, ready to set off on a journey that would change the course of history. He led with a strategic mind and iron will, his decisions guided by a vision of a united Mongolia. He understood the nomadic tribes, their values, their customs, and their desires. He was one of them, after all. This understanding made him a leader people were willing to follow. His charisma and unwavering determination drew people to him, and one by one, the tribes began to rally under his banner. With powerful allies and a force of his own, Temujin began his early conquest. He defeated the Merkit tribe, employing a strategy that would become his signature, eliminating all upper-class enemies. This was not just cruelty, it was a deliberate move to eliminate potential threats, consolidate his power, and unite the nomads under his rule. Soon after eradicating the Merkit, Temujin treated the nobility of the Jurchen clan in the same way. These princes exploited his absence during a raid against the Tatars to loot his possessions. In response, Temujin annihilated the clan's upper class and took the common people as his own soldiery and servants. Temujin's ambition was clear. He sought supremacy in the steppes. His renewed friendship with Jamuka, his boyhood friend, was short-lived. A cryptic remark from Jamuka about a camping site led Temujin's wife Borte to advise him that it was time for the two friends to part ways. This marked a turning point, as many of Jamuka's men, sensing the winds of change, abandoned him and pledged their loyalty to Temujin. The break with Jamuka led to polarization within the Mongol world. The clansmen began to align themselves with either Temujin or Jamuka. Some proposed to make Temujin the Khan of the Mongols, promising him loyalty in war and the hunt. But Temujin had grander plans. He set about systematically eliminating all rivals. Successive coalitions formed by Jamuka were defeated. The Tatars were exterminated. Togrul, once an ally, was manipulated into war against Temujin and was destroyed along with his Kharat people. In the west, the Nayman ruler, fearful of the rising power of the Mongols, tried to form yet another coalition, but was utterly defeated and lost his kingdom. Jamuka was betrayed and captured by his own men, who submitted him to the now victorious Temujin. Due to one of the laws, never betray your Khan, Temujin had the men immediately executed, and later Jamuka interrogated. Jamuka was given a choice to live and join Temujin, but he instead requested to die in his childhood friend's hands, and thus was soon after executed. These campaigns, taking place in the few years before 1206, left Temujin as the master of the steppes. In that year, a great assembly was held by the river Onon, and Temujin was proclaimed Genghis Khan, a title that likely meant universal ruler. The year 1206 marked a turning point in the history of the Mongols and the world. The petty tribal quarrels and raids of the past were replaced by a unified Mongol nation, the personal creation of Genghis Khan. This new nation was organized for war, with troops divided on the decimal system, rigidly disciplined, well-equipped and led by Genghis Khan's own sons or men, absolutely loyal to him. Genghis Khan's military genius allowed him to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. Initially, his troops were exclusively cavalry, riding the hardy Mongol pony. However, as they began to face the challenge of taking cities, they learned to use siege equipment like mangonels, catapults, and burning oil. They even learned to divert rivers to aid their sieges. Genghis Khan also began to understand the benefits of literacy and the value of towns and their inhabitants. He learned from a minister of the Naiman tribe, the last major Mongol tribe to resist him, about the uses of literacy and helped reduce the Mongol language to writing. From Muslim advisors, he learned the importance of towns, and from a former servant of the Jin emperor, he understood the value of peasants and craftsmen as producers of taxable goods. With these lessons learned, Genghis Khan set his sights on China. After securing his western flank with a campaign against the Tangut kingdom of Sixia, he attacked the Jin Empire of northern China in 1211. Beijing was taken in 1215, and the systematic subjugation of northern China began under his general Mukhali. However, Genghis Khan was compelled to turn his attention from China to carry out the Conquest of Khwarezm, a Muslim empire in the region of the Amu Darya and Sir Darya. This war was provoked by the governor of the city of Otrar, who massacred a caravan of Muslim merchants under Genghis Khan's protection. The Khwarezm Shah refused to make amends, and war ensued. It was in this war that the Mongols earned their reputation for savagery and terror. City after city was stormed, inhabitants massacred, fields laid waste, and irrigation works destroyed. After withdrawing in 1223, Genghis Khan did not lead his armies into war again until the final campaign against Sixia in 1226 to 1227. He passed away on August 18, 1227, leaving behind a legacy of conquest and unification that would echo through the ages. Genghis Khan was a man of complex character. He possessed great physical strength, tenacity of purpose, and an unbreakable will. He was not stubborn, but rather open to advice from others, including his wives and mother. He valued loyalty and was deeply religious, often worshiping the eternal blue heaven, the supreme deity of the Mongols. As he moved beyond the familiar sphere of the steppe and encountered the settled world, his perspective began to change. Initially, he saw only the immediate gains from massacre and plunder, but over time he learned to see the bigger picture. His military successes were built on organization, discipline, mobility, and ruthlessness of purpose. He regularly used massacres and the resultant terror as weapons. He would summon cities to surrender and organize the methodical slaughter of those who did not submit. This practice, which has been described as psychological warfare, was undoubtedly designed to sap resistance by fostering terror, but the massacre was also used for its own sake. His armies may have slaughtered more people than Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler combined. As many as 40 million people were killed under his rule. At the time of his death, Genghis Khan had conquered the landmass extending from Beijing to the Caspian Sea, and his generals had raided Persia and Russia. His successors would extend their power over the whole of China, Persia, and most of Russia. They did what he did not achieve and perhaps never really intended. That is, to weld their conquests into a tightly organized empire. The destruction brought about by Genghis Khan survives in popular memory. But far more significant, these conquests were but the first stage of the Mongol Empire, the greatest continental empire of medieval and modern times.